I could snap your collarbone in 3 seconds, and no one in this building would say I was wrong. And Nadine Okafor, 44 years old, was being pinned to a wall like a criminal by a deputy marshal who stood a full head taller than her. She did not struggle, did not scream. Both hands remained where he could see them. One rested on the leather strap of her handbag. The other lay flat against the cold stone surface. He tightened his grip. Do you understand what I am saying to you? Or do I need to call backup to explain it more clearly? She counted. 4 seconds. 5 seconds. 6. The radio on his shoulder crackled. A female voice from dispatch, neutral, professional. Unit 4 Alpha, this is dispatch. Be advised, no scheduled tours. No visitor passes issued for Judge's Corridor before 0800. Repeat, corridor is restricted access only. Confirm your 10 to 20. He did not respond immediately. His eyes were still boring into the back of her head, as though he could read her intentions through her skin. 4th floor, East Wing, he said into the radio, his voice unwavering. Female, African American, no badge, no cooperation. Requesting backup for escort. No cooperation. She noted the phrase, filed it away. It would be useful later. Then she spoke. Voice low. Even. Not a single tremor. I understand, and I am recording every second. His hand paused, just for a beat, as if those words had touched some nerve he had not anticipated. Then he laughed, a short, dismissive sound. Record all you want. It will be useful when you explain to a judge why you were trespassing in a restricted area. At the far end of the corridor, an office door began to open. Slowly, as though whoever was inside was deciding whether or not to step out. The door stopped at a gap of 3 inches, then closed again. No one emerged. Nadine caught it in her peripheral vision, noted it, stored it. Someone was watching. Someone had chosen not to intervene. She would remember. 45 minutes earlier, 6:38 a.m. The underground parking garage of the Richard B. Russell Federal Building sat empty and silent. Only the low hum of ventilation echoed between gray concrete pillars. A gray 2019 Honda Accord turned into a spot marked for judicial personnel. Standard Georgia plates, not a vanity plate, not a diplomatic plate. Nadine Okafor turned off the engine and sat in the darkness for a moment. She looked into the rearview mirror, checking her reflection. Gray blazer over a white blouse, black tailored trousers, nude flats. No jewelry except for small pearl earrings her mother had left her. First day. 15 years as a federal prosecutor, 273 cases, 192 convictions. And 3 weeks ago, the United States Senate had confirmed her appointment as a federal district judge for the Northern District of Georgia. She arrived early because she wanted to familiarize herself with the space before anyone else showed up. Her official badge was still being processed and would be ready at 9 a.m. In her bag, she carried her appointment letter, email confirmation from the Judicial Council, and 15 years of experience standing before the bench. But none of that was visible on her face. She stepped out of the car, locked it, and walked toward the elevator. Her flat shoes made no sound on the concrete. She preferred it that way, preferred to move without announcing herself. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in, pressed L for lobby. As the doors began to close, a hand shot through the gap. The doors reopened. A man stepped inside. 50s, gray suit, badge hanging from his neck. William Tate, court administrator. He glanced at her, a quick look, head to toe, then turned away. Which floor? Lobby? He nodded, said nothing more. The elevator descended. Silence. Nadine observed him in the reflection on the steel doors. William Tate, court administrator. She had read his file. 23 years in the court system. Former law clerk for a federal judge in Chicago before switching to the administrative track. No complaints in his personnel file, no notable commendations either. An invisible man, the kind who worked within the system without leaving traces. The elevator stopped at the lobby. Doors opened. William Tate stepped out first, not looking back. Nadine followed, maintaining a distance of 5 paces. She watched him turn left toward the staff security entrance. His badge beeped. The gate opened. He disappeared into the interior. She walked toward the visitor security checkpoint, a deliberate choice. She wanted to see the process from an ordinary person's perspective, see how they treated someone without a badge. 2 deputy marshals stood behind the counter. One young, maybe 25, badge reading D. Moreno. One older, 40s or beyond, badge not visible. Moreno watched her approach. No smile, no greeting. Bag on the belt. Step through the scanner. She placed her bag down. Laptop in one compartment, documents in another, water bottle already uncapped to avoid additional inspection. Everything arranged as if she had passed through hundreds of courthouse security checkpoints, because she had. She stepped through the metal detector. No alarm. Moreno looked at the X-ray screen, then at her. Purpose of your visit? Work. You are a... He paused, as though weighing his options. Lawyer, clerk, early morning cleaning crew. No other options existed in his mind. A black woman arriving at a federal courthouse at 6:45 a.m. could only be one of those 3 things. Nadine did not react, did not frown, did not sigh. She had heard questions like this for 20 years. Reacting was a waste of energy. Office work, 4th floor. Moreno's eyebrows rose, just slightly, as if she had said something mildly entertaining. 4th floor is the judge's area. You need an escort. I know my way. It is not about knowing your way. His voice hardened. It is about security protocol. No one goes up to the 4th floor before 8 a.m. without an escort or a badge. Nadine considered her options. She could request identity verification now, could call the Judicial Council number, could create a scene, or she could see what happened when a black woman tried to go up to the 4th floor without a badge. She chose the second option. I will go up myself. If there is a problem, I will come back down. She did not wait for his agreement. She retrieved her bag from the belt and walked toward the staff elevator. Hey, you cannot just... She did not turn around, stepped into the elevator, pressed 4. The doors closed before Moreno could reach her. Inside the elevator, Nadine looked up at the security camera in the corner of the ceiling. She knew she was being recorded. Knew Moreno was probably radioing up to the 4th floor right now. She did not care. She wanted to see. The elevator stopped at the 3rd floor. Doors opened. 2 people stepped in. A middle-aged woman, 50s, short blonde hair, badge reading Margot Delaney, court clerk supervisor. A younger man, 30s, carrying a thick stack of files that obscured his badge. Margot Delaney looked at Nadine, head to toe, slowly, as though taking inventory of merchandise. 4th floor? Yes. Do you have an appointment with someone? No specific appointment. Margot turned to the young man, her voice a stage whisper loud enough for Nadine to hear clearly. Derek, check if there are any public tours scheduled today. Looks like someone got lost. Derek Vance, senior law clerk to Chief Judge Colfax. Nadine had read his file. Harvard Law, top 10%. Clerkship with a circuit judge before coming here. Ambitious. And according to a source she had, currently applying to a white shoe firm in D.C. He glanced at his phone, fingers scrolling quickly. No tours. 4th floor is restricted until 8 a.m. Margot nodded, turning back to Nadine. Her smile did not reach her eyes. Ma'am, you should probably go back down to the 1st floor and check with reception. The 4th floor is not really for... visitors. The word visitors carried a slight emphasis, as if it meant something else entirely. Thank you. I know where I need to go. The elevator opened on the 4th floor. Nadine stepped out. Did not look back. But she heard. Margot's voice, no longer a whisper. Derek, call Brock. Tell him someone is wandering around the corridor. The elevator doors closed. Nadine stood alone in the fourth-floor hallway, lights still in energy-saving mode. The air cold, carrying the scent of freshly mopped stone floors and old paper. She began to walk, slowly, reading each nameplate on the doors. Honanu Raymond Colfax, Chief Judge. Hanana Priya Anand, Magistrate Judge. Honorable Walter Briggs, Senior Judge. And another door. Blank nameplate. No name yet. She stopped in front of that door, touched the handle lightly. Cold, locked. This would be her office. She stepped back, observing the lock. Medico high security, the type used for federal facilities. Proprietary keyway. Cannot be picked with standard tools. She nodded slightly as though checking off a box in her mind. Then she continued walking, searching. Not for an office, for something else. She had read a report no one knew she had read. It detailed a pattern of complaints from Black and Hispanic staff members in this building. Complaints about being stopped, questioned, and escorted out of areas where they had every right to be. 17 complaints in the past 3 years. 0 substantiated. 0 investigated beyond the initial intake. The report sat in a file somewhere in the Judicial Council's archives. Nadine had found it 2 weeks ago, during her orientation materials review. It was buried under hundreds of pages of administrative trivia, as if someone had hoped no one would notice. She noticed. And now she was here, without a badge, without an escort, walking through the 4th floor at 6:52 a.m. Testing. If you are wondering why a veteran federal prosecutor would choose to enter a federal courthouse as an anonymous nobody, keep watching. The answer will make you reconsider everything you have read so far. Chapter. The judge's lounge was a small room at the end of the corridor. Coffee machine, mini refrigerator, round table with 4 chairs, a window overlooking the Atlanta skyline just beginning to glow with morning light. The door was unlocked. Nadine stepped inside, set her bag on a chair, and began making coffee. The machine was a high-end model, the kind that ground fresh beans. She selected dark roast, watched the liquid stream into a ceramic mug. Footsteps in the hallway. Then a voice. "Oh, are you the new housekeeping person?" Nadine turned. A young woman stood in the doorway. Late 20s, brunette ponytail, badge reading, Tatum Hale, probation officer. Her phone was in her hand, held at an angle that suggested it might be recording. "I am not with housekeeping." Tatum's eyebrows rose. A small smile played at the corner of her mouth. "Sorry, you just look like... Anyway, that coffee machine is only for judicial staff, just so you know." "I am aware." "Are you? Because I have never seen you before, and I know everyone on this floor." Tatum's smile widened. "But sure, help yourself, if you are allowed." She poured herself a cup from the second dispenser, a cheaper drip coffee maker on the counter. Then she left, her phone still angled toward Nadine as she walked out. Nadine sipped her coffee, watched the doorway. Tatum Hale, probation officer, 3 years in this building. According to the file Nadine had reviewed, she had received 2 informal warnings for inappropriate use of recording devices in the workplace. Neither warning resulted in any formal discipline. Another piece of the pattern. Nadine finished her coffee, rinsed the mug, and left it in the sink. She picked up her bag and walked back into the corridor. 7:15 a.m. The lights had not yet switched to full brightness. And that was when she saw him. Brock Whitley stood in the middle of the corridor like a wall made of muscle and uniform. 38 years old, 12 years with the U.S. Marshal Service, assigned to courthouse security. Broad shoulders, thick neck, close-cropped brown hair going gray at the temples. His hand rested on his belt, not on his weapon, but close enough. "Stop right there." Nadine stopped, 5 feet between them. "This is a restricted area. Badge?" "I do not have a badge yet. It is being processed." "No badge, no access." His voice was flat, practiced. "You need to come with me to the 1st floor." I have an appointment letter in my bag. Anyone can print a letter. He took a step forward. Come with me, now. Nadine did not move. She set her coffee cup on the windowsill, a slow, deliberate motion, keeping both hands visible. Deputy, I understand you are following protocol, but I suggest you verify my information through the Judicial Council before proceeding further. Protocol. Verify. Judicial Council. Words that did not belong to a random visitor. Brock paused. Just for a second. Judicial Council? You know their number? 202-502-1800. That is the 24/7 hotline for judicial emergencies. Silence. He studied her face. Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps, or annoyance at having his authority questioned. Then it was gone. Nice try. Good with Google, I see. He took another step forward. But that changes nothing. No badge, no access. Last time I asked nicely, come with me, or I escort you out another way. What other way would that be? The way that involves you in handcuffs. Nadine's jaw tightened, but her voice remained even. I would like to read you something, Deputy. She turned slightly, gesturing toward a laminated sign posted on the wall. Federal Building Security Regulations. She read aloud, her voice carrying clearly in the empty corridor. Per 40 U.S.C. Section 141 Fine and Federal Protective Service Regulations, all persons in federal buildings must present valid identification upon request by authorized security personnel. Failure to comply may result in removal from the premises. She turned back to face him. The regulation says valid identification. It does not say badge. An appointment letter from the Judicial Council qualifies as valid identification for personnel who have not yet been issued official credentials. Brock's face reddened. A vein pulsed at his temple. Are you trying to teach me the law? I am reading the sign on your wall. Silence stretched between them. 10 seconds. 15. Then Brock moved. Fast. His hand closed around her shoulder. Not gently. He spun her around, pushing her forward. She lost her balance slightly, and her back hit the granite wall. The impact echoed in the empty corridor. I said, come with me. His face was inches from hers now. She could see the pores on his nose, the broken capillaries in the whites of his eyes. I could snap your collarbone in 3 seconds, and no one in this building would say I was wrong. Those words. The same words he would repeat moments later when the radio crackled and the door at the end of the corridor began to open. Nadine did not struggle, did not scream. She counted. 4 seconds. 5 seconds. 6. I understand, she said, voice low and even, and I am recording every second. Yes. The elevator chimed. Doors opened. Margot Delaney stepped out, Derek Vance close behind. They stopped when they saw the scene. Brock Whitley pressing a black woman against the wall of the judge's corridor. Margot's expression did not change. If anything, she looked satisfied. Brock, what is happening? Trespasser. Brock did not release his grip. Refused to cooperate, waiting for backup. Margot walked closer, heels clicking on the stone floor. She looked at Nadine the way one might look at an insect on a kitchen counter. This is the woman from the elevator. I told her to go back to the first floor. Derek stood behind Margot, clutching his files. His eyes moved between Nadine and Brock, something flickering in them. Discomfort, perhaps, or calculation. She said she has an appointment letter. Derek's voice was tentative. In my bag, Nadine said. If someone would allow me to retrieve it. Brock's grip tightened. No one touches the bag. We wait for backup. Margot nodded slowly. Brock knows what he is doing. 12 years on this job. She pulled out her phone, began typing. A message to someone. Nadine could not see the screen. Should I call Chief Judge Colfax? Derek asked. Not yet. Margot did not look up from her phone. Let Brock handle it. If she is who she says she is, we will find out soon enough. If she is not, a small smile. Well, then Brock will have done his job. Nadine filed that away too. The hierarchy, the deference, the way Margot controlled the situation without giving any direct orders. Social architecture. Another elevator chime, more footsteps. Tatum Hale emerged from the stairwell door, phone in hand, camera clearly active now. Oh my God, it is the housekeeping lady. I am not with housekeeping. Tatum grinned, still recording. Sure, what are you being arrested for? Trespassing in a restricted area, Brock said, refusing to cooperate with security. Classic. Tatum moved closer, getting a better angle. This is going to be good. Nadine looked directly into Tatum's camera. You are recording video in a federal courthouse without authorization. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 795, photography and recording in federal buildings may be restricted. You should verify with your supervisor whether you have permission. Tatum's smile faltered. She lowered the phone an inch. I am a probation officer. I have the right to document incidents. Then make sure you document exactly what is happening, because I am documenting too. Tatum raised the phone again, but her expression had changed. Less amusement, more wariness. Margot stepped between them. Tatum, why don't you go back to your office? This does not concern you. But I want to see what happens. Go, now. It was not a request. Tatum hesitated, then retreated toward the stairwell. But Nadine noticed she did not put her phone away. 2 more deputy marshals arrived from the elevator. Backup. One older, one younger. Neither introduced themselves. Behind them, a familiar figure emerged. William Tate, court administrator, the man from the parking garage elevator. He stopped at the edge of the group, observing. His expression was unreadable. Nadine caught his eye. He looked away quickly. Too quickly. Then another figure appeared. Older, white hair, impeccable gray suit. Badge unnecessary because everyone knew his face. Chief Judge Raymond Colfax, 63 years old, 25 years on the bench, the most senior judge in this building. The group parted for him like water around a stone. What is happening in my corridor? Brock straightened, but did not release Nadine's shoulder. Sir, we have a trespasser. Refused to identify herself, refused to comply with security protocols. Colfax looked at Nadine. His eyes were sharp, assessing. A judge's eyes, trained to read defendants and witnesses and everyone in between. Who are you? Nadine met his gaze steadily. Nadine Okafor. I was appointed to a federal judgeship in this district. Today is my first day. Silence. Then Colfax laughed. A short, surprised sound. A federal judge? I received no notification about a new judge starting today. The notification was sent to your office 2 weeks ago. I have the email confirmation from the Judicial Council. Anyone can fabricate an email. Colfax's voice hardened. Derek, check the system. Derek Vance pulled out his laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard. 30 seconds passed. A minute. Sir, there is no Nadine Okafor in the Judicial Personnel Database. No appointment scheduled for today. Nadine's expression did not change. The local database would not have me listed because my badge has not been issued yet. But the Judicial Council's central database has my records. You can verify through the JCUS portal. I do not have access to the JCUS portal, Derek said. Then someone here does. Or you can call the number I provided earlier, 202-502-1800. Colfax studied her for a long moment. His eyes narrowed. Deputy Whitley, escort this woman to the first floor. We will verify her claims after she is removed from this restricted area. Sir, I request that you verify my identity before I am removed. I am a federal judge. What is happening right now could constitute a violation of... Could constitute? Colfax cut her off. You are in no position to cite legal possibilities to me. You are in a restricted area without credentials. Deputy Whitley is doing exactly what he is supposed to do. He turned to leave. Chief Judge Colfax. Nadine's voice stopped him. Low, controlled, but with an edge that had not been there before. For the record, I am asking you to make one phone call before you proceed. One call. 2 minutes of your time. If I am lying, you will have confirmed it, and Deputy Whitley can arrest me for impersonating a federal official. If I am telling the truth, she paused. Then what happens next is something you will have to explain to the Judicial Council, the Marshal's Service, and possibly the Department of Justice. Silence. Colfax's jaw tightened. He looked at Margot, at Derek, at Brock, at the 2 backup deputies, at William Tate, still standing at the edge of the group. Then he looked at Nadine again. Escort her downstairs. Now. He walked away without looking back. Brock's grip tightened. You heard the Chief Judge. Move. The next 60 seconds would change everything, but not in the way anyone expected. Brock pulled her toward the elevator. His grip was iron. Nadine did not resist, but she did not help either. Her feet moved, but slowly. Faster. I am moving at a safe pace. If you want faster, you will need to drag me. That can be arranged. He yanked her arm. She stumbled. Her bag slipped from her shoulder, hit the floor. The contents scattered across the polished stone. Appointment letter, email printouts, a leather folio with a gold seal, business cards. Nadine went to her knees to gather the papers. Brock reached down to grab her arm again, but she was already picking up documents, slowly, methodically, as if she had all the time in the world. Leave those. I will have someone collect your belongings. These are legal documents. You do not have the authority to confiscate them. I have the authority to remove a trespasser from federal property. Your papers come with you or stay here. Your choice. Nadine continued gathering, each paper placed carefully back in the bag, each movement deliberate, unhurried. Margot watched from 10 feet away, arms crossed. Just let her pick up her things, Brock. The faster she gets her stuff, the faster she is gone. Derek stood beside Margot, still holding his files, but his eyes were on the scattered papers, on the letterhead visible on one of them. Judicial Council of the United States. He looked away quickly when Nadine caught him staring. She finished gathering the documents, stood up, brushed off her knees. I will walk to the elevator now. You do not need to hold my arm. I decide what I need to do. But he released her arm, walked beside her instead, close enough to grab her if she tried to run, as if she would run. The elevator doors opened. Inside stood a woman Nadine recognized from the photos in her orientation packet. Early 50s, Indian American, judicial robes already on, black fabric crisp against her brown skin. Magistrate Judge Priya Anand. She looked at the scene before her. Brock Whitley standing over a black woman in a gray blazer, Margot and Derek watching from the corridor, the scattered remains of dignity on the stone floor. Her eyes met Nadine's. Something passed between them. Recognition, not of acquaintance but of understanding. Deputy Whitley, Judge Anand's voice was calm. What is happening here? Trespasser, Your Honor. Chief Judge Colfax ordered me to escort her to the first floor. Did he? It was not a question. Judge Anand stepped out of the elevator. She walked past Brock, past Nadine, toward the scattered business cards still lying on the floor. She bent down, picked one up, read it. The silence stretched. Then Judge Anand straightened. She turned to face Brock Whitley. Deputy Whitley, do you know who this woman is? She claims to be a federal judge, ma'am. No credentials to prove it. She does not need credentials. Judge Anand held up the business card. I received a memo 2 weeks ago with her photograph. Her name is Nadine Okafor. She was confirmed by the Senate 3 weeks ago. She paused. She is the newest judge on this court, and as of today, She has been assigned to oversee all internal personnel complaints within this building. Brock's face went white, then red, then white again. I was not informed. Clearly. Judge Anand turned to Nadine. Judge Okafor, I apologize for what you have experienced this morning, on behalf of this court. Nadine inclined her head slightly. Thank you, Judge Anand. Deputy Whitley. Judge Anand's voice hardened. Release her, immediately, then report to Marshal Reeves' office. You and I will be having a conversation about what happened here today. Brock's hand dropped to his side. He took a step back, then another. Your Honor, I was following protocol. We will discuss protocol in the Marshal's office. Go. Now. He went. Margot Delaney had not moved. Her face was frozen, a mask of controlled panic. Derek Vance looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Judge Anand turned to them. Margot, Derek, I suggest you return to your offices. I will be speaking with you both later today. They scattered like leaves in wind. Only William Tate remained, standing at the far edge of the corridor, still watching. His expression had not changed. Nadine noted that too. The Chief Judge's office was the largest on the 4th floor. Oak-paneled walls, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with legal volumes, a massive desk that looked like it had been there since the building opened in 1979. Raymond Colfax sat behind that desk, his face the color of old newspaper. Judge Anand stood to his left. Nadine sat in one of the leather chairs facing him, her bag on her lap. Judge Okafor, Colfax's voice was strained. The situation this morning was unfortunate. It was more than unfortunate, Chief Judge. I was physically assaulted in the corridor of this courthouse. I was called a trespasser. I was told I would be arrested for impersonating a federal official, and at every point I offered to provide verification of my identity, which was refused. Deputy Whitley was following security protocols. Deputy Whitley threatened to break my collarbone. That is not protocol. That is assault under Georgia Code Section 16520, and potentially a federal civil rights violation under 18 U.S.C. Section 242. Colfax's jaw tightened. We do not need to discuss potential criminal charges. I am not discussing them. I am naming them, so that everyone in this room understands the seriousness of what happened. Judge Anand spoke. Judge Okafor is correct. The incident this morning raises significant concerns. Deputy Whitley's actions, the failure of multiple staff members to verify her identity when she offered documentation, the recording made by Ms. Hale. Recording? Colfax looked up sharply. What recording? Tatum Hale, the probation officer, recorded video of the incident on her personal phone. I saw her doing it. I do not know if she has shared it. Nadine spoke. By now, she almost certainly has. People like Ms. Hale do not record things to keep them private. As if on cue, there was a knock on the door. Derek Vance's voice, muffled through the oak. Chief Judge, there is a call from the Judicial Council in Washington. They say it is urgent. Colfax closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked 10 years older. This is going to be a very long day. Talk. 3 hours later, the 4th floor of the Richard B. Russell Federal Building had been transformed from a quiet judicial corridor into something resembling a crime scene investigation. U.S. Marshal Service Inspector Lenora Graves had arrived from the regional office. 2 investigators from the Office of Professional Responsibility, a representative from the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, and, via video conference from Washington, a senior attorney from the Judicial Council's Ethics Division. Nadine sat in her new office, the one with the blank nameplate, now bearing a temporary paper sign. Marshal Nadine Okafor, United States District Judge. The office was smaller than Colfax's. No oak panels, no floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, just standard federal furniture, a window overlooking the parking garage, and a desk that had clearly been used by someone else before. She did not mind. She had worked in worse. A knock on the door. Judge Anand entered without waiting for a response. The Marshals have Deputy Whitley in their office. He has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Not suspended? Administrative leave with pay for now. The union requires due process before suspension without pay. Nadine nodded. Expected. The system protected its own, even when they did not deserve protection. What about Tatum Hale? The video she recorded has been disseminated widely. It is trying to track all the copies, but it appears to have reached at least 40 people within the court system. And one email address that does not belong to any court employee. External leak? Possibly. The investigators are looking into it. Nadine leaned back in her chair. Judge Anand, can I ask you something? Of course. How did you know who I was? You said you received a memo with my photograph 2 weeks ago, but Chief Judge Colfax claims he was not informed. Judge Anand was silent for a moment. Then she sat down in the chair across from Nadine's desk. I received the memo. I read it. I remembered your face. She paused. Chief Judge Colfax receives dozens of memos every week. I doubt he reads them all. He specifically said he had no notification. He may have said that. It does not mean it is true. Judge Anand's voice was careful. I am not suggesting he is lying. I am suggesting that memory is selective, and that sometimes we do not see what we do not want to see. Nadine considered this. You think he forgot about my appointment? I think, Judge Anand hesitated. I think there are patterns in this building, patterns that have existed for a long time. Some people see them, some do not. Some choose not to. The complaints, the 17 complaints from Black and Hispanic staff members. Judge Anand's eyes widened slightly. You know about those? I found the report in my orientation materials, buried, as if someone hoped no one would notice. Someone did hope that. Judge Anand's voice dropped. I filed 3 of those complaints myself when I was a magistrate judge with less seniority. All 3 were marked unsubstantiated within weeks. No interviews conducted, no evidence reviewed. Who makes those determinations? Judge Anand did not answer immediately. She looked toward the window, the gray light of an Atlanta morning filtering through the glass. The court administrator is supposed to conduct initial reviews. William Tate. Nadine remembered the man from the parking garage elevator, the man who had stood at the edge of the group during her confrontation with Brock Whitley, watching, silent. And after the initial review? The file goes to the chief judge for final determination. Chief Judge Colfax, the man who had ordered her escorted out of the building without making a single phone call to verify her identity. I see. Judge Okafor. Judge Anand leaned forward. I want to be clear about something. I am not saying there is a conspiracy. I am not saying anyone is deliberately protecting anyone. But there is a culture here. A culture that assumes certain people belong and certain people do not. And that culture has consequences. I know. Nadine's voice was flat. I experienced those consequences this morning. Yes. And because of who you are, there will be accountability, investigations, policy reviews, perhaps even discipline. Judge Anand paused. But think about this. What happens to the person without a federal appointment, without credentials, without anyone to call who can verify their identity in 2 minutes? Nadine did not have to think. She already knew. Nothing happens. They are escorted out, or arrested, and no one investigates. Exactly. Silence stretched between them. Then Nadine spoke. I am going to need the complete files on all 17 complaints, every document, every witness statement, every determination memo. Those files are supposed to be confidential. I have been assigned to oversee internal personnel complaints. That gives me access. Judge Anand studied her face. Something like hope flickered in her eyes. You are serious. I did not survive 15 years as a federal prosecutor by not being serious. Nadine stood up. Judge Anand, someone in this building knew I was coming. Someone knew I would be arriving early without a badge. And someone either failed to prepare for my arrival or deliberately ensured that I would be treated exactly the way I was treated this morning. You think it was intentional? I do not know yet, but I intend to find out. What Judge Okafor would discover in the next 24 hours would make this morning's assault look like a minor inconvenience. But she did not know that yet. Nobody did. The Marshal Service office was located on the second floor, a utilitarian space of gray cubicles and fluorescent lights. Inspector Lenora Graves sat behind a metal desk, a tablet in front of her displaying body cam footage. Nadine stood on the other side of the desk watching the screen. This is Deputy Whitley's body cam from this morning, Graves said, starting at 7:15 a.m. The footage played. Nadine watched herself walking down the corridor, watched Brock Whitley step into frame, watched the confrontation unfold from his perspective. She heard her own voice, tinny through the body cam's microphone. Deputy, I understand you are following protocol, but I suggest you verify my information through the Judicial Council before proceeding further. She watched Brock's response. The dismissive laugh, the step forward, then the push, her back hitting the wall. And his voice, clear and unmistakable. I could snap your collarbone in 3 seconds, and no one in this building would say I was wrong. Graves paused the footage. He said that. Yes. On camera. Yes. Graves shook her head slowly. In my 12 years with the Marshal Service, I have never seen an officer threaten a civilian on his own body cam. He either forgot it was recording or he believed it would not matter. Graves looked up sharply. What do you mean? I mean that Deputy Whitley has worked in this building for 12 years. He has had complaints filed against him before. Those complaints went nowhere. He had no reason to believe this time would be different. How do you know about prior complaints? Nadine did not answer directly. Inspector Graves, I need copies of all complaints filed against Deputy Whitley during his tenure at this courthouse. I also need records of how those complaints were investigated and resolved. That information is internal to the Marshal Service. And I am a federal judge with oversight authority over personnel matters in this building. I am requesting the records formally. If you prefer, I can make the request through the Judicial Council. Graves considered this. Her expression was unreadable. Judge Okafor, I want to be clear about something. I am here to investigate what happened this morning. Nothing more. If there are broader issues in this building, that is outside my jurisdiction. I understand. I am asking for the records related to Deputy Whitley specifically. What I do with that information is my concern. Silence. Then Graves nodded slowly. I will have the records sent to your office by end of day. Thank you. Nadine turned to leave, then paused at the door. Inspector, one more question. When Deputy Whitley was informed he was being placed on administrative leave, what was his reaction? Graves hesitated. He asked who had reported him. He seemed surprised, as if he genuinely did not understand what he had done wrong. Did he mention anyone else? Anyone who might have instructed him or suggested how to handle the situation? No, but... Graves frowned. He did say one thing I found odd. He said, "This is not how it was supposed to go." I asked him what he meant. He said he was just frustrated and did not elaborate. Not how it was supposed to go. Nadine filed that away. Thank you, Inspector. She left. Mata. The IT department occupied a windowless basement office filled with humming servers and blinking lights. The head of the department, a young man named Kevin Park, sat at a workstation surrounded by 3 monitors. Judge Okafor. He stood when she entered, nearly knocking over a coffee mug. I was not expecting. How can I help you? The video recorded by Tatum Hale this morning. I need to know where it went. I have been tracking it. He sat back down, fingers flying over the keyboard. The original was sent via email from Ms. Hale's personal Gmail account at 7:38 a.m. Recipients included 42 court email addresses and 1 external address. What external address? Kevin hesitated. I am not sure I should. Mr. Park, I am the judge assigned to oversee internal personnel complaints. A video recording of a potential civil rights violation was leaked outside this building. I need to know where it went. He swallowed, typed something. A new window appeared on his screen. The external email was, "This is strange." What? The domain is, it is a DOJ address, Department of Justice. Nadine's expression did not change, but her mind was racing. Someone in the Department of Justice received that video? Not just someone. Kevin zoomed in on the email address. The address is for the Civil Rights Division. Silence. Mr. Park, are you telling me that Tatum Hale sent a video of me being assaulted directly to the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division? It looks that way, but... He frowned. That does not make sense. Why would a probation officer have a direct email for the Civil Rights Division? Those addresses are not public. No, they were not. Nadine thought about Tatum Hale, the smirking probation officer who had called her housekeeping, who had recorded the entire incident, who had been warned twice about inappropriate use of recording devices, who had access to an email address that should not be publicly available. Mr. Park, I need you to do something for me. Of course. I need you to find out when Tatum Hale first obtained that email address. Check her email logs, her browser history, anything you have access to. I want to know if she has communicated with that address before. That would require a formal request to access her computer. Consider this a formal request. I will put it in writing within the hour. For now, start the preliminary search. Kevin looked uncertain, but he nodded. I will see what I can find. Nadine's office. 6:15 p.m. The day had stretched into evening. Outside her window, the Atlanta skyline was painted in shades of orange and purple as the sun set. On her desk sat 3 folders. The first contained the body cam footage transcript, with timestamps marking every moment of the morning's confrontation. The second contained the preliminary report from Inspector Graves, documenting the immediate facts of the incident. The third was thinner, a single page. A list of 4 names. Deputy Marshal Brock Whitley, Court Clerk Supervisor Margot Delaney, Senior Law Clerk Derek Vance, Probation Officer Tatum Hale. 4 people who had witnessed what happened. 4 people who had either participated in or failed to stop it. But there was a 5th name on her mind, one not on the list. William Tate, Court Administrator, the man who had been in the parking garage elevator at 6:38 a.m., the man who had appeared on the 4th floor during the confrontation but said nothing, the man responsible for initial review of staff complaints, the man who, according to Judge Anand, had allowed 17 complaints to die without investigation. Nadine pulled out her laptop, opened the Judicial Council portal, typed in William Tate's name. His file appeared. 23 years of service. No complaints, no commendations. A career of perfect mediocrity. She scrolled down. Employment history. Chicago, Atlanta. Always in administrative roles. Never on the bench. Never in prosecution. Never in defense. A shadow. Someone who moved through the system without leaving marks. She scrolled further. Personal information. Education. References. And then she stopped. Under References, a name she recognized. Raymond Colfax. Chief Judge Raymond Colfax had been William Tate's reference when he applied for the court administrator position. 15 years ago. 15 years of working together. 15 years of Tate handling complaints. 15 years of Colfax making final determinations. 17 complaints from minority staff. 0 substantiated. Nadine closed the laptop. She understood now. Not everything, but enough. There was a knock on her door. Come in. Kevin Park entered, looking nervous. He held a tablet. Judge Okafor, you asked me to check Tatum Hale's email history for the DOJ address. Yes. I found something. He handed her the tablet. She has been communicating with that address for 3 months. Regular emails. Weekly, sometimes daily. Nadine looked at the screen. A list of email timestamps. Subject lines mostly blank or generic, but one stood out, from 3 days ago. Subject line, new appointment. She opened it. The email was heavily redacted. Black bars covered most of the text, but a few lines remained visible. She's supposed to start Monday. Just giving you a heads up. Don't let her get too comfortable. Nadine read the last line 3 times. Don't let her get too comfortable. She looked up at Kevin. Who sent this email? I do not know. The sender address is the DOJ one, but... He hesitated. That does not make sense either. Why would someone at DOJ Civil Rights be telling a probation officer to not let a new judge get comfortable? It did not make sense, unless the DOJ email address was not actually being used by someone at DOJ, unless someone had access to that address who should not have it, unless the entire morning had been orchestrated. Nadine set the tablet down carefully. Mr. Park, I need you to do one more thing. Yes? Find out who else in this building has access to external DOJ email addresses. Not general DOJ, Civil Rights Division specifically. That will take time. I have time. She looked at him steadily. And Mr. Park? Do not tell anyone else about what you found, not until I say so. He nodded. Left. Nadine sat alone in her office as the sky outside darkened. 3 days ago, someone had sent an email warning Tatum Hale that she was starting Monday, telling Tatum to not let her get too comfortable. 3 days ago, someone had known she was coming. Someone had planned for it. The question was, who and why? She thought about Brock Whitley's words to Inspector Graves. This is not how it was supposed to go, not how it was supposed to go. If assaulting her in the corridor was not how it was supposed to go, then what was? The parking garage was empty when Nadine finally left at 8:45 p.m. Her footsteps echoed between the concrete pillars as she walked to her Honda Accord. She was almost at her car when she heard it. Another set of footsteps. Behind her, moving quickly. She turned. William Tate stood 10 feet away, still in his gray suit from this morning. His face was half-shadowed by the dim fluorescent lights. Judge Okafor. Mr. Tate. I wanted to apologize for this morning. I should have said something, done something. Yes, you should have. He took a step closer. His eyes were difficult to read in the low light. You are investigating now. The complaints, the patterns. I know you are. That is my job. I know. He took another step. Judge Okafor, I want you to understand something. Not everything is as it appears. Not everyone who looks like an enemy is one. And not everyone who looks like an ally. He stopped, looked over his shoulder, as if expecting someone. Mr. Tate, what are you trying to tell me? He turned back to her. For a moment, something broke through his mask of controlled neutrality. Fear, or desperation, or something in between. Be careful. With the email investigation, with Tatum Hale, with all of it. He paused. Some things in this building have roots deeper than you know, deeper than I knew when I started. Are you warning me or threatening me? I am trying to help you. In the only way I can. He turned and walked away. Turned. His footsteps echoed until they disappeared. Nadine stood alone in the parking garage, keys in hand. She thought about the email, the DOJ address, the line about not letting her get comfortable. She thought about William Tate's words. Some things have roots deeper than you know. She thought about the door that had opened and closed at the end of the corridor that morning. the someone who had watched and chosen not to intervene. And she thought about one more thing. When Kevin Park had shown her Tatum Hale's email history, she had noticed something she had not mentioned to him. The emails to the DOJ address. The weekly communications for 3 months. They had not started when Tatum Hale joined the courthouse. They had started exactly 2 weeks after Nadine's nomination was announced by the White House. Someone had been watching her, following her career, preparing for her arrival, for 3 months. And whoever it was had access to Department of Justice internal systems. Nadine got into her car, started the engine. The questions she had started the day with seemed small now. The questions she had now were much, much larger. And she had a feeling that the answers would be more dangerous than anything Brock Whitley could have done to her in that corridor. She pulled out of the parking garage and into the Atlanta night. Behind her, in the darkness of the building, a light flickered on in a 4th-floor window. Someone was still there. Someone was watching. 3 days passed. 3 days of investigation. 3 days of interviews. 3 days of paper trails that led to dead ends, and dead ends that led to more questions. Nadine Okafor sat in her chambers at 7:15 a.m., the same time she had been assaulted in the corridor 72 hours earlier. Outside her window, Atlanta was waking up under a gray October sky. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed their steady mechanical song. On her desk, 3 stacks of documents had grown into 7. The first stack, Deputy Marshal Brock Whitley's personnel file. 12 years of service, 4 prior complaints, all marked unsubstantiated. Performance reviews that described him as dedicated and thorough in his duties. A letter of commendation from Chief Judge Colfax himself, dated 2 years ago. The second stack, Tatum Hale's email records. 3 months of communication with a DOJ Civil Rights Division email address. Weekly check-ins, coded language. And the email from 3 days before Nadine's arrival. Don't let her get too comfortable. The third stack, the 17 complaints from Black and Hispanic staff members. 3 years of documentation. 3 years of patterns. 3 years of the same outcome. Insufficient evidence to proceed. The fourth stack, William Tate's career history, 23 years in the court system, 15 years at this courthouse. 0 marks on his record, 0 traces of anything. The fifth stack, a new addition, Freedom of Information Act requests. Nadine had filed with the Department of Justice regarding the Civil Rights Division email address used to communicate with Tatum Hale. The requests had been acknowledged but not yet fulfilled. The sixth stack, transcripts of interviews conducted by Inspector Lenora Graves. Brock Whitley's statement, in which he claimed he was following standard protocol and had no prior knowledge of Nadine's identity. Margot Delaney's statement, in which she expressed regret for not intervening but insisted she had no authority to override security decisions. Derek Vance's statement, in which he blamed a database synchronization error for the missing personnel records. The seventh stack, a single page, handwritten notes from Nadine's own memory, names, dates, questions. She picked up that page now. Read the questions she had written. Who sent the email telling Tatum to not let her get too comfortable? Why did William Tate warn me in the parking garage? What did Brock Whitley mean when he said, "This is not how it was supposed to go"? Why did the door at the end of the corridor open and close without anyone coming out? Who has access to DOJ Civil Rights Division email addresses outside of DOJ? 5 questions, 0 answers. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Judge Priya Anand entered, holding a manila folder. "I have something you need to see." Kish. The folder contained a single document, an email, printed on plain white paper. Nadine read it. From judicial.ethics@uscourts.gov to priya.anand@uscourts.gov. Subject: Confidential Pattern Investigation. Date: 14 months ago. Judge Anand, your inquiry regarding the handling of workplace discrimination complaints has been received and reviewed. After careful consideration, the Office of Judicial Ethics has determined that there is insufficient basis to open a formal investigation into the Northern District of Georgia's complaint resolution procedures. The matters you have raised appear to reflect routine administrative discretion rather than systemic bias. We encourage you to continue working within established channels to address any specific concerns. This matter is now closed. Nadine looked up. You reported this 14 months ago. I did. Judge Anand's voice was tight. I compiled the data myself. 17 complaints over 3 years, all involving minority staff, all resolved the same way. I sent it to Judicial Ethics with a formal request for investigation, and they dismissed it. In 3 weeks, the fastest I have ever seen them close a file. Judge Anand sat down heavily in the chair across from Nadine's desk. I was told, unofficially, that I should be careful about making accusations I could not prove, that pattern analysis was not evidence, that I might be seeing connections that were not there. Who told you that? Chief Judge Colfax, in a private meeting 2 days after I received that email. Nadine set the document down. He knew you had filed the complaint. He knew within hours. I still do not know how. The Office of Judicial Ethics is supposed to maintain confidentiality. Someone told him. Someone did. Silence. Nadine thought about the architecture of this building. Not the physical architecture, the social architecture, the web of relationships and loyalties and debts that connected everyone in this courthouse to everyone else. Chief Judge Colfax and William Tate. 15 years of working together. Colfax had been Tate's reference. Tate handled complaints. Colfax made final determinations. And when Judge Anand tried to expose the pattern, the complaint was dismissed in 3 weeks, and Colfax knew about it almost immediately. Judge Anand, I need you to tell me everything you know about Chief Judge Colfax's relationship with William Tate. Anand hesitated. That is a complicated question. Uncomplicated. The next hour would reveal a history that had been buried for 15 years, a history that explained everything about that morning in the corridor, and a history that would put more than careers at risk. Judge Anand spoke for 45 minutes. Nadine listened without interruption, taking notes on the handwritten page that was becoming a roadmap of institutional failure. The story began 15 years ago. William Tate had arrived at the Northern District of Georgia courthouse from Chicago, where he had worked as a law clerk and then an administrative assistant. His references were impeccable. One of them came from Raymond Colfax, who had met Tate at a judicial conference 3 years earlier. At the time, Colfax was not yet chief judge. He was a senior district judge with ambitions. Tate was hired as a deputy court administrator under the previous administrator, a woman named Helen Marchetti. Helen Marchetti retired 2 years later. William Tate was promoted to court administrator. His first act was to reorganize the complaint review process, centralizing all initial reviews under his office instead of distributing them among multiple staff members. He said it was for efficiency, Judge Anand explained. One person reviewing all complaints meant consistent standards, faster resolution, less bureaucracy. And no oversight, Nadine said. And no oversight. The pattern started almost immediately. Complaints from minority staff members began to resolve faster than others. Too fast. Marked unsubstantiated, without interviews, without documentation review, without any of the standard investigative steps. Judge Anand noticed. She was a magistrate judge then, with limited authority. She raised concerns with the chief judge at the time, a man named Harold Burton. Judge Burton told me he would look into it. 2 weeks later, he announced his retirement, 6 months early. He was forced out? I do not know. He never said. But 3 months after his retirement, Raymond Colfax was elevated to chief judge, and William Tate's position became untouchable. Nadine wrote a note. Burton retirement, coincidence or pressure? Or, Judge Anand, in the 14 months since your complaint to Judicial Ethics was dismissed, has anything changed? Nothing? If anything, things have become more careful. Complaints still resolve the same way, but The paperwork is more thorough. The language is more precise, as if someone learned from my complaint and made sure to cover tracks better. Someone reviewed your complaint and used it as a training manual. That is what I believe. Nadine set down her pen. Then they made a mistake. They brought me here. Judge Anand's expression shifted. Something like hope, but tempered with caution. Judge Okafor, I want to help you. I have wanted to expose this for years. But I need you to understand what you are facing. Colfax has been chief judge for 13 years. He has relationships with everyone: senators, representatives, the Judicial Council, the DOJ leadership. If you come at him directly without overwhelming evidence, he will bury you the same way he buried my complaint. I know. Do you? Because what happened to you in that corridor, it was visible, public, impossible to ignore. But the systemic issues, the patterns, the complicity, that is invisible. And invisible is much harder to fight. Nadine looked at the 7 stacks of documents on her desk. Not invisible, just buried. And buried things can be dug up. 9:45 a.m. The IT department. Kevin Park looked like he had not slept. His eyes were rimmed with red, and there were 3 empty energy drink cans on his desk. Judge Okafor, I found something. He turned his monitor so she could see. The DOJ Civil Rights Division email address that Tatum Hale was communicating with. I traced the access logs. On the screen, a spreadsheet of login timestamps and IP addresses. The email account was accessed from 3 different locations over the past 3 months. One is the DOJ headquarters in Washington. That is expected. One is a residential address in Virginia, which I assume belongs to a DOJ employee working from home. And the third? Kevin hesitated. His finger hovered over the screen. The third is here. This building. The Richard B. Russell Federal Building. Nadine felt the floor shift beneath her feet. A subtle tilt in reality. Someone in this building has access to a DOJ Civil Rights Division email account. Not just access. Kevin's voice dropped. Administrator access. Whoever is logging in from here can send emails, receive emails, and delete records. They have full control of the account. Can you identify who? I traced it to a specific terminal. The access comes from... He scrolled down. The court administrator's office. William Tate's computer. Naki. The pieces clicked together in Nadine's mind like a lock mechanism engaging. William Tate, the invisible man. 23 years in the system without leaving a trace. He had access to a DOJ email account. Administrator access. He had used that access to communicate with Tatum Hale for 3 months, to warn her about Nadine's arrival, to tell her not to let the new judge get too comfortable. But why? What was the connection between a court administrator and the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division? And why would someone at DOJ give administrator access to an email account to someone outside the department? Unless they had not given it, unless it had been taken. Mr. Park, is it possible that someone could obtain unauthorized access to a DOJ email account? Theoretically, yes, if they had the right credentials, or if they knew someone inside DOJ who could provide access. Or if they created the account themselves. Kevin blinked. What do you mean? I mean, what if that email address is not actually a DOJ account? What if it is a fake, designed to look like it belongs to the Civil Rights Division? Kevin was quiet for a moment. Then he started typing, fast. I can check that. If it is a legitimate DOJ account, it will be registered in the Federal Email Directory. If it is fake... More typing. A new window opened. Kevin stared at the screen. Holy cow. What? The email address. civilrights.monitor. 734 Orusha, U.S. DOJ. Gov. Moi. He turned the screen toward her. It is not in the directory. It does not exist as an official DOJ account. Nadine absorbed this. Someone created a fake DOJ email address. Used it to communicate with Tatum Hale for 3 months. made it look like the Civil Rights Division was monitoring her activities. But why would Tatum believe it was real? Why would she trust emails from a random address claiming to be DOJ? Because someone told her it was real, someone she trusted. Nadine thought about the hierarchy of this building, the web of relationships. Someone with authority. 11:30 a.m. The Personnel Records Office. Nadine had requested Tatum Hale's complete employment file. The request had taken 2 hours to fulfill, which was 2 hours longer than it should have. The file was thin. Probation officer. 3 years in this building. 2 informal warnings for inappropriate use of recording devices. No formal discipline. But there was something else. Under supervisor, a name. William Tate. Nadine looked at the administrative assistant who had brought her the file. This says Tatum Hale reported to the court administrator. Probation officers do not report to court administration. The assistant shrugged. I just pulled what was in the system, Your Honor. I do not know why it says that. Nadine dismissed her, studied the file. Probation officers reported to the probation office, which was part of the judicial branch but operated independently from court administration. There was no legitimate reason for Tatum Hale to have William Tate listed as her supervisor, unless the records had been altered, unless someone wanted to establish a chain of command that did not officially exist. Nadine added another note to her handwritten page. Tatum Hale. Fake supervisor relationship with Tate. Why? Tate. Fake DOJ email access. Why? 3 months of preparation for my arrival. Why target me specifically? She looked at the timeline. Her nomination had been announced by the White House 14 weeks ago. The communications between Tatum and the fake DOJ email had begun 12 weeks ago, 2 weeks after her nomination. Someone had started planning the moment her name became public. But who knew, 14 weeks ago, that she would be assigned to oversee internal personnel complaints? That was not part of the standard judicial appointment. It was a special assignment requested by... Nadine stopped. Requested by the Judicial Council. She picked up her phone, dialed a number from memory. This is Judge Okafor. I need to speak with Director Morrison at the Judicial Council. It is urgent. What Director Morrison would reveal in the next 10 minutes would transform this investigation from a local incident into something much larger, something that touched the highest levels of the federal judiciary. Director Sarah Morrison had been with the Judicial Council for 18 years. She was the kind of bureaucrat who survived administration changes by being indispensable, neutral, and scrupulously careful. Her voice on the phone was guarded. Judge Okafor, I heard about what happened on your first day. I am very sorry. Thank you, Director. I have a question about my assignment. Your assignment? The oversight role. Internal personnel complaints. Who requested that I be given that responsibility? Silence on the line. Long enough that Nadine wondered if the call had dropped. Director Morrison? Judge Okafor, that information is sensitive. I understand, but I need to know. More silence, then a sigh. The request came from within the Northern District of Georgia. It was framed as a need for fresh oversight following some concerns about complaint resolution procedures. Who made the request? The Chief Judge, Raymond Colfax. Nadine's hand tightened on the phone. Chief Judge Colfax requested that I be assigned to oversee internal complaints? Yes, about 10 weeks ago. He specifically asked that the new appointee, whoever it turned out to be given oversight authority. He said the district needed independent review of their processes. 10 weeks ago, 4 weeks after her nomination. 2 weeks before Tatum Hale started receiving emails from the fake DOJ account. Director Morrison, did Chief Judge Colfax know at that time who the new appointee would be? Of course. The confirmation was still pending, but he was briefed on all candidates under consideration. Your name was at the top of the list. And he specifically requested the oversight assignment for whoever was appointed? Yes, I remember thinking it was unusual, Chief judges typically resist oversight, not request it. Nadine closed her eyes. She understood now. Colfax had not been surprised by her arrival. He had known for months. He had requested her specific assignment. He had positioned her to be the one investigating complaints in this building. But why would someone who had spent 13 years burying complaints request an investigator? Unless he wanted to control the investigation. Unless he wanted to make sure the investigator saw only what he wanted them to see. Unless something had gone wrong with the plan. This is not how it was supposed to go. Brock Whitley's words, the assault in the corridor, the public spectacle that could not be buried. Maybe the plan had been simpler. Welcome the new judge, give her the oversight role, control what she found, manage her conclusions, use her as a rubber stamp for the existing system. But Brock Whitley had not gotten the memo. Or he had gotten a different memo, one that told him to not let her get too comfortable. 2 different sets of instructions, 2 different plans, and now they were colliding. Director Morrison, I need you to send me all documentation related to Chief Judge Colfax's request for my assignment. Emails, memos, meeting notes, everything. Judge Okafor, that is highly irregular. Director, I was assaulted in a federal courthouse. There is evidence suggesting the assault may have been premeditated, and there are indications that the chief judge of this district may have been involved in planning how I would be managed upon my arrival. I need those documents. Silence. I will need approval from the council chairman. Then get it. I will be waiting. She hung up. 1:15 p.m. The U.S. Marshal Service Office. Inspector Lenora Graves looked tired. The investigation into Brock Whitley was consuming her entire team, and she was fielding calls from Washington every hour. Judge Okafor, I assume you are here about the investigation. I am here about something related. Deputy Whitley said something during his interview. He said, "This is not how it was supposed to go." I need to know more about that statement. Graves hesitated. That is part of the ongoing investigation. I am not sure I can share. Inspector, I am the victim in this case. I have a right to know what evidence has been gathered. You are a victim and a federal judge. Those roles create complications. They do, but right now I am asking as the victim. What did he mean? Graves studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled a tablet from her desk. I recorded the interview. I can show you the relevant portion. She pressed play. On the screen, Brock Whitley sat at a metal table, his hands flat on the surface. He looked smaller without his uniform, wearing civilian clothes and a 2-day beard. Graves' voice came from off-screen. Deputy Whitley, walk me through what happened when you first encountered the woman in the corridor. I got a call from Derek Vance. He said there was someone wandering around the judge's area without credentials. I went to investigate. Standard protocol. And when you encountered her? She refused to comply, would not show ID, started lecturing me about regulations. Did you verify her claims about her identity? No. I mean, she said she was a judge, but come on, she did not look like... He stopped. He did not look like what? Did not look like a federal judge. She was dressed casual. No badge, no escort. She looked like she did not belong there. Based on what criteria? Whitley shifted in his seat. Just experience. 12 years doing this job, you develop instincts. Instincts that told you a black woman in business casual could not be a federal judge? I did not say that. You implied it. Silence on the recording. Then, look, this is not how it was supposed to go. I was told, I expected. He stopped again, shook his head. I want a lawyer. The recording ended. Nadine looked at Graves. He said, I was told. Then he corrected himself. I noticed. He was told something. By someone. About me. That is my assessment as well. But he lawyered up before I could follow that thread. His union representative arrived within the hour, and he has not answered any questions since. Who is his lawyer? A private attorney named Marcus Eldridge, high-priced, specializes in defending law enforcement officers. Who is paying for him? Graves's expression shifted. That is an excellent question. Deputy Marshals do not typically have access to attorneys like Eldridge. He charges $500 an hour. Someone else is paying. Someone is. Nadine added another note to her growing list. Whitley's lawyer, who is paying. Marcus Eldridge, connections? Inspector, I need you to find out who retained Marcus Eldridge. That information is not privileged. Billing records, retainer agreements, whatever you can access. That will take time. How much time? A few days? Maybe a week? I may not have a week. Graves looked at her. Judge Okafor, can I give you some advice? Off the record? Go ahead. You are pulling on threads. A lot of threads. And every thread leads somewhere dangerous. I have seen investigators get too deep into something like this. They find one connection, then another, and suddenly they are surrounded by enemies they did not know they had. She paused. Be careful who you trust in this building, including people who seem like allies. Is that a warning about someone specific? Graves did not answer, but her eyes flickered toward the door, toward the corridor beyond, toward the building full of people who might be watching. 4:30 p.m. Nadine's chambers. She had spent the afternoon making calls, following threads, building a picture that was becoming clearer and more disturbing with each new piece of information. At 4:22 p.m., her email chimed. A message from Director Morrison at the Judicial Council. The documents she had requested were attached. Nadine opened the first attachment, a memo from Chief Judge Colfax to the Judicial Council, dated 10 weeks ago. Following concerns raised by multiple parties regarding the consistency of complaint resolution procedures in the Northern District of Georgia, I am requesting that the incoming judicial appointee be assigned special oversight authority for internal personnel matters. This will provide independent review and help ensure that our processes meet the highest standards of fairness and transparency. Multiple parties. What parties? She opened the second attachment, an email chain between Colfax and Director Morrison. Morrison. Your request is unusual, Chief Judge. Can you provide more detail about the concerns that prompted it? Colfax. There have been informal complaints about response times and thoroughness of investigations. I believe external oversight will address these concerns proactively. Morrison. Is this related to Judge Anand's inquiry last year? Colfax. Indirectly. Her inquiry raised questions that deserve answers. A new set of eyes will help provide them. Nadine read that last line 3 times. A new set of eyes. Judge Anand had filed her complaint 14 months ago. It had been dismissed in 3 weeks. Now, suddenly, Colfax was requesting oversight, citing her inquiry as a reason? It did not make sense. Unless Colfax knew another complaint was coming, a complaint he could not dismiss as easily, unless he wanted to get ahead of it, control the narrative, position himself as someone who welcomed oversight rather than resisted it, unless someone had told him that this time would be different. Nadine opened the third attachment, a list of people who had been consulted about the oversight assignment. Chief Judge Raymond Colfax, Court Administrator William Tate, Magistrate Judge Priya Anand, and one more name she did not expect, Deputy Attorney General Michael Thornton. The number 2 official at the Department of Justice had been consulted about her assignment. Why? 5:45 p.m. The parking garage. Nadine was walking to her car when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned, hand instinctively moving toward her bag. William Tate stood 15 feet away. Same gray suit. Same unreadable expression. You have been busy today, Judge Okafor. Have I? You pulled Tatum Hale's personnel file. You had IT trace the DOJ email account. You called the Judicial Council and requested documentation about Chief Judge Colfax's involvement in your assignment. He paused. That is a lot of threads to pull in one day. You know everything that happens in this building. It is my job to know. Is it also your job to communicate with probation officers using a fake DOJ email address? Tate's expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. A flicker of something that might have been surprise, or might have been calculation. I do not know what you are talking about. The IT department traced the access logs. The email account was accessed from your computer. Administrator access. Silence stretched between them. The parking garage hummed with the sound of ventilation and distant traffic. Then Tate did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a dismissive laugh. A genuine, tired, almost sad laugh. Judge Okafor, you are very good at what you do. 15 years as a prosecutor, and it shows. He shook his head slowly. But you are looking at the wrong person. Then who should I be looking at? I cannot tell you that. Cannot or will not. Both. He took a step closer. His voice dropped. I told you 3 days ago to be careful. I meant it. What you are uncovering, it goes higher than me, higher than this building, higher than you realize. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I can give you. His eyes met hers. I have a family, Judge Okafor, a wife, 2 daughters, one in college, one in high school. I have worked in this system for 23 years. I have done things I am not proud of. I have looked the other way when I should have spoken up, but I have survived, and my family has been protected. Protected from what? From the consequences of not cooperating. Nadine studied his face, searching for deception, finding something else instead. Fear. Genuine, bone-deep fear. Mr. Tate, are you telling me you have been coerced? I am telling you that there are forces in this system that do not appear in any organizational chart. People who have the power to end careers, destroy reputations, make problems disappear, and those people do not like being investigated. Who are they? I cannot... He stopped, looked over his shoulder, as if expecting someone to appear from the shadows. Then he reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a USB drive, pressed it into her hand. This is everything I have. Emails, documents, recordings, 23 years of insurance. I gathered it because I knew someday I might need it. To protect myself, to protect my family. Why are you giving it to me? Because I am tired. His voice cracked slightly. Because what happened to you in that corridor? It was wrong. I knew it was wrong when I watched it happen. I knew it was wrong when I chose not to intervene. And I have been carrying that knowledge for 3 days. He paused. I am done carrying it. Nadine looked at the USB drive in her hand. Small. Plastic. Potentially explosive. Mr. Tate, if I use this, you will have what you need to expose the pattern, the people behind it, the system that protected them. He stepped back. But they will come for me, and probably for you too. Are you prepared for that? No, but I am more prepared for it than I am for another 13 years of silence. He turned and walked away. His footsteps echoed until they faded into nothing. Nadine stood alone in the parking garage, the USB drive pressed against her palm. 23 years of insurance. She had a feeling she was about to find out exactly what that meant. The contents of that USB drive would expose a conspiracy that stretched back more than a decade. But what Judge Okafor did not know was that someone else had already seen what was on it, and they were preparing to make sure she never got the chance to use it. 8:15 p.m. Nadine's apartment. She lived in a 2-bedroom condo in Midtown, 15 minutes from the courthouse. Clean lines, minimal furniture, shelves lined with legal texts, and a few novels she never had time to read. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, the USB drive plugged in. The drive contained 3 folders. The first was labeled Complaints. Inside were scanned copies of every complaint filed by minority staff members in the Northern District of Georgia over the past 15 years. Not 17 complaints, 43. 43 complaints, more than double what Judge Anand had found. Nadine scrolled through them. The earlier ones, from 12 and 13 years ago, had more documentation, witness statements, email chains, interview notes. But as the years progressed, the documentation became thinner, more perfunctory, until the recent complaints were resolved in a matter of days with almost no investigation at all. The system had not started broken. It had been broken over time, deliberately, systematically. The second folder was labeled Communications. Inside were hundreds of emails, sorted by date. The earliest was from 12 years ago. A message from Raymond Colfax to William Tate. Bill, I need you to handle the Henderson complaint quietly. He is a troublemaker, but he has connections. Make sure the documentation is clean and the resolution is final. We cannot have this dragging on. Henderson. Nadine did not recognize the name. She made a note to search the complaint files. The emails continued, year after year, complaint after complaint, always the same pattern. Colfax identifying problems, Tate making them disappear. But then, about 5 years ago, a new name appeared in the email chains. Deputy Attorney General Michael Thornton. Ray, I understand there have been some rumblings from your district about complaint handling. I want you to know I have your back on this. The last thing any of us need is another Ferguson situation. Keep things quiet, and I will make sure no one in Washington looks too closely. Ferguson. The reference was clear. The DOJ investigation into the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department after the Michael Brown shooting. A pattern or practice investigation that had exposed systemic racism and led to a consent decree. Thornton was promising to prevent a similar investigation in Atlanta. Nadine felt cold. This was not just a local problem. This was a coordinated effort reaching into the highest levels of the Department of Justice. The third folder was labeled Insurance. Inside were audio recordings. Dozens of them. Nadine clicked on the first one, a conversation between Tate and Colfax, dated 4 years ago. Colfax. The Judicial Council is asking questions about the Martinez complaint. Apparently she has a cousin who knows someone on the council staff. Tate. I can handle it, but I need cover. If they dig too deep. Colfax. They will not dig deep. I will talk to Morrison. She owes me a favor from the budget allocation last year. Tate. And if that does not work? Colfax. Then we escalate to Thornton. He has ways of making inquiries disappear. Nadine stopped the recording. Director Morrison. The woman she had spoken to this afternoon. The woman who had sent her the documents about Colfax's request. Morrison had known. For years. She had been part of the network, and Nadine had trusted her. She clicked on another recording. More recent. 3 weeks ago, just before her arrival. Colfax. The new appointment is confirmed. Okafor. Tate. I know. I saw the announcement. Colfax. She is a prosecutor, aggressive, smart. The council is assigning her oversight responsibilities. Tate. I thought you requested that. Colfax. I did. Better to have her under our roof than investigating from outside. We can control what she sees. Tate. And if we cannot control her? A pause. Colfax. Then we make sure she does not want to stay. There are ways to make a new judge uncomfortable, isolated, demoralized. They usually request transfer within a year. Tate. What if she does not request transfer? Colfax. Then we find other ways, but let us hope it does not come to that. Other ways. Nadine's hands trembled slightly as she closed the laptop. They had planned this, planned her arrival, planned to control her, planned to push her out if control failed. The assault in the corridor, Brock Whitley's threat, Tatum Hale's video. All of it was part of a larger strategy to make her uncomfortable, to make her feel unwelcome, to make her want to leave. But something had gone wrong. This is not how it was supposed to go. The assault was supposed to happen, but it was not supposed to be so visible, so public, so impossible to cover up. Someone had made a mistake, or someone had changed the plan, and now the whole conspiracy was unraveling. 10:45 p.m. Nadine had spent 2 hours reviewing the files on the USB drive, taking notes, building a timeline, identifying the key players. Raymond Colfax, Chief Judge, the Architect. William Tate, Court Administrator, the Implementer. Sarah Morrison, Judicial Council Director, the Enabler. Michael Thornton, Deputy Attorney General, the Protector. And below them, the foot soldiers. Brock Whitley, Margot Delaney, Tatum Hale. People who followed orders without asking questions. People who were expendable. But there was still a gap, a question she could not answer. The fake DOJ email address. Tate had denied creating it. His denial had seemed genuine. And the recordings on the USB drive showed Tate as a reluctant participant, not a mastermind. Someone who followed orders because he was afraid, not because he was ambitious. So who had created the email address? Who had used it to communicate with Tatum Hale? Nadine pulled up the email logs Kevin Park had given her. The access records for the fake DOJ account. 3 locations. DOJ headquarters in Washington. A residential address in Virginia. William Tate's computer in Atlanta. 3 locations. But how many users? She looked at the timestamps more carefully. The Washington access and the Virginia access overlapped sometimes. They could be the same person, working from 2 different locations. But the Atlanta access never overlapped with the other 2. It happened at different times, different patterns, 2 users, at least, 1 in Washington or Virginia, 1 in Atlanta. Tate denied being the Atlanta user. If he was telling the truth, someone else had accessed his computer. But who? Nadine thought about who had access to the court administrator's office. Staff members, IT personnel, cleaning crew, and judges. Judges had access to every office in the building. She thought about the door at the end of the corridor that morning. The door that had opened and closed without anyone coming out. She checked the floor plan she had memorized during her first day. The door at the end of the corridor belonged to the chambers of Senior Judge Walter Briggs. Walter Briggs, 71 years old, 28 years on the bench, the most senior judge in the building after Colfax. His name had not appeared in any of the documents or recordings, but his door had opened, and then closed. Nadine added another note to her list. Walter Briggs, witness or participant? The next morning, 7 a.m., Nadine arrived at the courthouse early, not through the visitor entrance this time, through the judicial entrance with her badge prominently displayed. No one stopped her. She went directly to the 4th floor, walked past her own chambers, stopped in front of the door marked Arn Walter Briggs, Senior Judge. She knocked. "Come in?" The voice was elderly, measured, with the careful diction of someone who had spent a lifetime choosing words precisely. Nadine entered. Walter Briggs sat behind a desk that was even larger than Colfax's. Bookshelves lined every wall, filled with legal volumes dating back decades. The morning light filtered through windows that overlooked downtown Atlanta. He looked up from a document he was reading. His eyes, behind wire-rimmed glasses, were sharp despite his age. "Judge Okafor, I wondered when you would come." "You knew I would?" "I watched what happened to you through my door. I saw you notice. You are a prosecutor. Prosecutors notice everything." He set down his pen. "Sit, please." Nadine sat. "You did not intervene." "No." "Why?" Briggs was silent for a long moment. Then he removed his glasses, cleaned them with a cloth, replaced them. "Because I am a coward, Judge Okafor. I have been a coward for many years. It is easier to survive that way." "Survive what?" "The system that Raymond Colfax has built. The system that requires silence and compliance. The system that punishes anyone who speaks out." "You know about the pattern, the complaints." "I know everything. I have known for years." Then why have I not done anything? Briggs smiled sadly. Because I have 3 years until retirement. Because I have a pension I cannot afford to lose. Because I have watched colleagues who spoke up get reassigned, isolated, pressured into early retirement. And because, in the end, I convinced myself that staying silent was not the same as participating. It is the same. I know. His voice was heavy with something that might have been shame. I have always known. Nadine leaned forward. Judge Briggs, I need information. The fake DOJ email address, the one used to communicate with Tatum Hale. It was accessed from William Tate's computer, but Tate says he did not send those emails. Briggs's expression shifted. Something flickered in his eyes. You found that. I found a lot of things. Then you may have found more than you realize. He stood up, walked to his bookshelf, pulled down a thick legal volume. Behind it was a small safe. He opened it with a key from his pocket. Inside was a single envelope. He handed it to Nadine. I received this 6 months ago. Anonymous. No return address. I have never shown it to anyone. Nadine opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a printout of an email. From civilrights.mount.734@usdoj.gov. To redacted. Subject: Northern District, Phase 2. Date: 6 months ago. Phase 1 is complete. The complaint suppression system is functioning as designed. Phase 2 will begin upon confirmation of the new judicial appointment. Target: any minority appointee with prosecutorial background. Objective: neutralization through isolation, demoralization, and if necessary, career destruction. Resources: local assets, Whitley, Hale, Delaney. Backup: DOJ intervention if needed. Anticipated timeline: 12 months to transfer request or resignation. Nadine read it twice. Phase 2. They had been planning for her. Not just for weeks, for months. And the email was not from Tate's computer. The timestamp corresponded to a period when Tate was on vacation. Nadine had checked his leave records. Someone else had access to that email address. Someone who was not William Tate. Do you know who sent this? She asked. Briggs shook his head. No, but I know who has the technical capability to create fake email addresses and access accounts remotely. Who? The IT department, or more specifically, someone with administrative access to the courthouse computer systems. Nadine thought about Kevin Park, the young IT specialist who had helped her trace the email logs. Kevin Park? No, Park is new, only 2 years in the department. Briggs paused. But his supervisor has been here for 8 years, a man named Dennis Corcoran. He reports directly to William Tate, and before that, he hesitated. Before that, he worked for the Department of Justice, ET Division. Dennis Corcoran, a name Nadine had not heard before, a name that had not appeared in any of her research. Where is Corcoran now? He called in sick 3 days ago, the day after your incident. He has not returned. 9:30 a.m. The IT department. Kevin Park looked nervous when Nadine entered. More nervous than usual. Judge Okafor, I was about to call you. What is it? Dennis Corcoran, my supervisor. I tried to access his workstation this morning to check some logs. His entire system has been wiped. Wiped? Everything. Emails, documents, access logs. Someone ran a military-grade deletion protocol, the kind that overwrites data 7 times so it cannot be recovered. When did this happen? Sometime last night, after hours. The system logs show access at 2:17 a.m. using Corcoran's credentials. But Corcoran has been out sick. Exactly. Nadine's mind raced. Someone had used Corcoran's credentials to wipe his computer. Either Corcoran himself, remotely, or someone with access to his login information. Can you trace where the access came from? Kevin typed rapidly. A new window appeared. The access came from... This is weird. What? The IP address traces to a residential location in Virginia, the same Virginia address that accessed the fake DOJ email account. The same Virginia address. Whose address is it? Kevin typed more, checked a database. His face went pale. Judge Okafor, I do not think I should tell you this. Mr. Park. The address is registered to... He swallowed. Michael Thornton, Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Nadine left the IT department with her heart pounding. Michael Thornton, the number 2 official at the Department of Justice, the man who had been consulted about her assignment, the man who had promised to keep Washington from looking too closely at Atlanta. He had access to the fake DOJ email address. He had wiped Dennis Corcoran's computer remotely. He was at the center of this conspiracy. But how could she prove it? Thornton had the power to make evidence disappear. To end careers. To crush investigations before they began. She needed more. She needed independent verification. She needed someone outside the system. She thought about her options. The FBI? They reported to the Attorney General, who reported to the President. Thornton could intervene. The Office of Inspector General? They investigated DOJ misconduct, but they also operated within DOJ. Thornton had influence there too. Congress? The Judiciary Committee had oversight authority, but that would take time. Hearings, subpoenas, months of bureaucratic process. The press? Nadine stopped walking. The press was independent. The press could not be controlled by DOJ, and a story about a deputy attorney general orchestrating the harassment of a black federal judge would be explosive. But going to the press meant giving up control of the narrative. It meant public exposure. It meant risks she could not predict. She thought about what Inspector Graves had told her. Be careful who you trust in this building. She thought about what William Tate had said. There are forces in this system that do not appear in any organizational chart. She thought about the email she had read. Phase 2. Target. Any minority appointee. Objective. Neutralization. They had targeted her because of what she was. A black woman. A prosecutor. Someone who might ask questions. Someone who might not stay silent. And they had failed. The assault in the corridor had been too visible, too public, too impossible to hide. Now she had evidence. Not enough to convict, but enough to expose. The question was, what would she do with it? 11 a.m. Chief Judge Colfax's chambers. Nadine had requested a meeting. Colfax had agreed immediately. Too immediately. She sat across from him now, her bag on her lap, the USB drive hidden in an inner pocket. Judge Okafor. Colfax's voice was warm, concerned, collegial. How are you holding up? The past few days must have been incredibly difficult. They have been educational. Educational? He smiled. How so? I have learned a great deal about how this courthouse operates, about the patterns that exist, about the people who maintain them. Something flickered in Colfax's eyes, a tightening at the corners, but his smile remained in place. I am glad you are settling in. I know your first day was traumatic. But I assure you, we are committed to addressing what happened. Deputy Whitley will face appropriate consequences. Will he? Of course. The investigation is ongoing, but I expect significant discipline. And what about the people who instructed him? Silence. I am sorry. Deputy Whitley said something during his interview. He said, "This is not how it was supposed to go." He started to say he was told something, then stopped himself. Nadine kept her voice level. Someone gave him instructions, Chief Judge. Someone told him to make me uncomfortable. Colfax's smile faded. His face became a mask. That is a serious accusation. It is. I have evidence to support it. What evidence? Communications, recordings, documentation of a pattern of complaint suppression going back more than a decade. She paused. And evidence connecting that pattern to officials at the Department of Justice. The mask cracked, just slightly, a flash of something raw beneath the surface. Judge Okafor, I do not know what you think you have found, but I would advise you to be very careful about making accusations you cannot prove. I can prove them. Can you? He leaned forward. Do you know how long I have been a federal judge? 25 years. Do you know how many attempts have been made to undermine my authority, to accuse me of misconduct, to remove me from this bench? No. None. Zero. Because I am very good at what I do, and because the people who have tried to come after me have learned that it is a mistake. Is that a threat? It is advice from a colleague. His voice hardened. You are new here. You do not understand how things work. You think you have evidence. You think you can expose something. But you are playing a game with rules you do not know, against players who have been in this game for decades. I am not playing a game. Then you are making a mistake. He stood up. This meeting is over. I suggest you think very carefully about your next steps, because once you start down a certain path, there is no going back. Nadine stood as well. Chief Judge Colfax, I have thought carefully. I have thought about the 43 complaints that were buried, about the careers that were destroyed, about the people who were pushed out of this building because they did not look the way someone thought they should look. She paused. And I have thought about what happened to me in that corridor. The threat, the assault, the assumption that I was a trespasser in my own courthouse. An unfortunate incident, an orchestrated incident, and I intend to prove it. She walked to the door. Judge Okafor. She turned. Colfax's face was pale. His hands gripped the edge of his desk. You do not know what you are starting. I know exactly what I am starting. I am starting what should have been started years ago. She left. Chaput. The next 48 hours would determine whether Judge Okafor's evidence would see the light of day, or whether the forces arrayed against her would succeed in burying it, and her career, forever. 1:30 p.m. The parking garage. Nadine was walking to her car when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Do not go home tonight. They are watching your apartment. Meet me at the Landmark Diner, Peachtree Street, 8 p.m. Come alone. I have more. She stared at the message. No name, no identification. It could be a trap. It could also be the break she needed. She texted back. Who is this? The response came immediately. Someone who knows what Phase 3 is. Phase 3. The email had mentioned Phase 2. What was Phase 3? She made a decision. I will be there. 4 p.m. The U.S. Marshal's Service Office. Inspector Graves looked up when Nadine entered. Judge Okafor, I was about to call you. You have information. I do. About Brock Whitley's lawyer, Marcus Eldridge. Who is paying him? Graves slid a document across the desk. A billing invoice. The retainer was paid by a law firm in Washington, a firm called Thornton Wells and Associates. Nadine's blood ran cold. Thornton. Michael Thornton, Deputy Attorney General. He founded the firm before he joined DOJ. His wife still manages it. The connections multiplied. Thornton protecting Colfax. Thornton funding Whitley's defense. Thornton wiping evidence remotely. Inspector, I need to tell you something, but I need to know first. Can I trust you? Graves studied her face. Something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, or solidarity. Judge Okafor, I have been with the Marshal's service for 12 years. I have seen good agents and bad agents. I have seen investigations that went nowhere because someone decided they should go nowhere. And I have seen what happens to people who ask too many questions. That is not an answer. Let me finish. Graves leaned back. I have also seen what happens when someone with courage decides to fight. It is ugly, it is painful, and sometimes it fails. But sometimes it succeeds. And when it succeeds, it changes things. It matters. Are you saying you will help me? I am saying that if you have evidence of federal crimes, I have a duty to investigate, regardless of who is involved. She paused. Even if that means making enemies in high places. Nadine made a decision. She reached into her bag, pulled out a copy of the USB drive contents she had made that morning. This is everything I have: documents, recordings, evidence of a conspiracy to suppress civil rights complaints in this district reaching into the Department of Justice. Graves took the folder, opened it, began to read. Her expression changed as she turned pages. Surprise, then anger, then something harder. This is enough to destroy careers if it is handled correctly. And if it is not handled correctly, then it disappears. And I probably disappear too. Graves closed the folder. I need to make some calls. People I trust. People outside the normal chain of command. She looked at Nadine. Can you give me 48 hours? I can give you until tomorrow night. After that, I am going to the press. The press will create chaos. Chaos may be the only protection I have. Graves nodded slowly. Understood. I will work fast. 8 p.m. The landmark diner, Peachtree Street. The diner was old-school Atlanta. Red vinyl booths, chrome trim, a counter where locals had been drinking coffee for 50 years. Nadine sat in a back booth facing the door. Her hand rested near her bag, where she had placed a small recorder. The door opened. William Tate walked in. He looked worse than he had 3 days ago. Thinner, paler. The gray suit hung on him like it belonged to someone else. He slid into the booth across from her. You came. You said you had information about Phase 3. I do. He glanced around the diner, checking for familiar faces. But first, I need to know, did you give the USB drive to anyone? I gave a copy to Inspector Graves. Tate closed his eyes. Good, good. That means it is already in the system. They cannot make it disappear now. What is Phase 3, Mr. Tate? He opened his eyes. They were bloodshot, haunted. Phase 1 was the complaint suppression system. Years of burying evidence, protecting bad actors, maintaining the status quo. I know. Phase 2 was targeted neutralization. Minority appointees who might ask questions, isolated, demoralized, pushed out. I know that too. Phase 3 is... He swallowed. Phase 3 is what happens when Phase 2 fails. When someone cannot be pushed out. When someone fights back. What happens? They are destroyed. Not just professionally, personally, financially, legally. His voice dropped. There have been 3 Phase 3 targets in the past decade. One died in a car accident that was ruled accidental. One was arrested for drug possession after cocaine was found in her car. She lost her judgeship, her law license, everything. One simply disappeared, took early retirement and moved out of the country. No one knows where she is. Nadine felt cold. You are telling me they will try to destroy me. I am telling you they already started. The assault in the corridor was supposed to be the beginning. Demoralization. But it backfired. It became public. Now they are scrambling. What will they do next? Tate reached into his jacket, pulled out another envelope. This was couriered to my home this afternoon, from Washington. Nadine opened it. Inside was a single document, a memo from the Office of the Attorney General. R.E. Judicial Misconduct Complaint, Judge Nadine Okafor. This office has received a formal complaint alleging that Judge Nadine Okafor engaged in prosecutorial misconduct during her tenure as an Assistant United States Attorney. The complaint alleges that Judge Okafor withheld exculpatory evidence in multiple cases, resulting in wrongful convictions. An investigation has been opened. Judge Okafor is advised that she may be subject to suspension pending the outcome of this investigation. Nadine read it 3 times. Prosecutorial misconduct. withheld exculpatory evidence, wrongful convictions, all lies, all fabricated. But it did not matter whether it was true. The investigation itself would be enough. Enough to remove her from the bench, enough to destroy her reputation, enough to make all her evidence seem like the desperate claims of a disgraced judge. When was this sent? Today, this afternoon. They are moving fast. Because they know I have evidence. Because they know you are dangerous. Tate's voice cracked. Judge Okafor, I am sorry, for all of it, for the years of silence, for the complicity, for everything I should have done and did not do. Why are you helping me now? Because my daughter called me last night. She is a junior at Georgia State, pre-law. She wants to be a prosecutor like you were. He paused. She asked me what I do at work, what I contribute, and I could not answer her. I have spent 23 years contributing to something that would make her ashamed. He stood up. I am done hiding. Whatever happens next, at least I will be able to look her in the eye. He walked out of the diner. Left Nadine alone with the memo. Phase 3 had begun. Chapter 9:30 p.m. Nadine's car. She sat in the parking lot thinking. The memo changed everything. Once it became public, her credibility would be destroyed. No one would believe her evidence. No one would trust her motives. The conspiracy would survive, and she would be its latest victim. She needed to act fast, before the memo was released, before the investigation became public. She had less than 24 hours. She pulled out her phone, made a call. This is Nadine Okafor. I need to speak with the editor-in-chief. Tonight. It is urgent. 11 p.m. The offices of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. The editor-in-chief was a woman named Karen Whitfield, 60 years old, 35 years in journalism, Pulitzer Prize for investigative reporting in 2008. She sat across from Nadine in a conference room, reading through the documents Nadine had brought. Pages of emails, transcripts of recordings, the Phase 2 memo, the fake DOJ email trail. When she finished, she looked up. This is explosive. I know. If we publish this, there will be consequences. Lawsuits, denials, counterattacks. I know. You are a federal judge. You understand what going to the press means for your career. I understand that if I do not go to the press, I will not have a career. They are already fabricating misconduct charges against me. Karen studied her face. Why did you come to me? Why not a national outlet? Because this story started in Atlanta. It should be told by Atlanta. And because I researched your background, you broke the story on the Fulton County jail conditions in 2015. You did not back down when the county threatened to sue. That nearly cost me my job. But you did it anyway. Karen was quiet for a long moment. When do you need this published? Tomorrow morning, before they release the misconduct memo. That is not much time. I know, but if we wait, the narrative changes. I become the accused. Everything I have becomes suspect. Karen looked at the documents again, the weight of them, the implications. I need to verify what I can, make some calls. If everything checks out. She met Nadine's eyes. We go to print. 6 a.m. The next morning, Nadine had not slept. She sat in her chambers at the courthouse, waiting. At 6:14 a.m., her phone buzzed, a text from Karen Whitfield. Story is live, front page, online and print. Good luck. She opened the Atlanta Journal-Constitution website. The headline filled her screen. Federal judge exposes decade-long conspiracy to suppress civil rights complaints. DOJ officials implicated. Below it, her name, her photo, and the beginning of an article that would change everything. The next 4 hours were chaos. By 7 a.m., the story had been picked up by national outlets. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, The New York Times, The Washington Post. By 8 a.m., the Department of Justice had issued a statement denying all allegations and announcing an internal review. By 9 a.m., Deputy Attorney General Michael Thornton had announced he was taking a leave of absence pending the outcome of the review. By 10 a.m., Chief Judge Raymond Colfax had issued a statement expressing shock and dismay at the allegations and pledging full cooperation with any investigation. By 11 a.m., the FBI had opened a formal investigation into civil rights violations at the Northern District of Georgia courthouse. By noon, Nadine had received 17 calls from reporters, 4 calls from congressional staffers, and 1 call from the White House. She answered none of them. She sat in her chambers, watching the chaos unfold, and waited. 2:30 p.m. An emergency meeting of the Judicial Council. Nadine attended via video conference. The faces on her screen were grave. Council Chairman Robert Hayes spoke first. Judge Okafor, the allegations in this morning's article are extremely serious. They implicate multiple federal officials, including members of this council's staff. I am aware. Director Morrison has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. We are reviewing all communications related to your appointment and assignment. I appreciate that. We are also aware that the Department of Justice Office of Professional Responsibility has opened an investigation into your conduct as a prosecutor. We need to discuss how that investigation affects your status. Nadine leaned forward. Chairman Hayes, that investigation is a fabrication. It was created yesterday, in response to my evidence, as a way to discredit me before I could go public. The timing is not coincidental. We understand your position, but we cannot simply dismiss a DOJ investigation. Then investigate it. Look at the documents I provided. Look at the timeline. The memo was drafted hours after I confronted Chief Judge Colfax about the conspiracy. It names cases I never prosecuted. It alleges misconduct in years I was not working. It is a transparent attempt to destroy my credibility. Silence on the call. Then another council member spoke. An older woman named Judge Patricia Evers. Judge Okafor, I have reviewed your prosecutorial record. 273 cases, 192 convictions, 0 appeals overturned on misconduct grounds, 0 complaints filed with the Office of Professional Responsibility until yesterday. Correct. The timing of this complaint is suspicious. It is more than suspicious. It is retaliation. Judge Evers looked at the other council members. I move that we request the FBI include the misconduct complaint in their investigation. If it is fabricated, as Judge Okafor alleges, that fabrication is itself a federal crime. Chairman Hayes nodded slowly. Second? Another voice. Seconded. Motion carries. We will communicate this request to the FBI immediately. He turned back to Nadine's image on the screen. Judge Okafor, pending the outcome of these investigations, what is your intention? My intention is to continue doing my job. I was appointed to this court to serve justice. That is what I intend to do. Even with everything that has happened? Especially because of everything that has happened. The investigations would take months. Some would take years. But in the days and weeks that followed, the first consequences, I could snap your collarbone in 3 seconds, and no one in this building would say I was wrong. Hot breath against the back of her neck. The smell of cheap coffee with too much creamer. Aftershave applied with a heavy hand, and the pressure of a man's palm pressing her shoulder into the cold granite wall of the 4th-floor corridor. Richard B. Russell Federal Building, Atlanta, Georgia. 7:23 a.m. The hallway lights still in energy-saving mode, only 50% brightness. The doors to judges' chambers sealed shut. Brass nameplates gleaming dull gold in the dim light. And Nadine Okafor, 44 years old, was being pinned to a wall like a criminal by a deputy marshal who stood a full head taller than her. She did not struggle, did not scream. Both hands remained where he could see them. One rested on the leather strap of her handbag. The other lay flat against the cold stone surface. He tightened his grip. Do you understand what I am saying to you? or do I need to call backup to explain it more clearly? She counted. 4 seconds. 5 seconds. 6. The radio on his shoulder crackled. A female voice from dispatch, neutral, professional. Unit 4 Alpha, this is dispatch. Be advised, no scheduled tours. No visitor passes issued for Judge's Corridor before 0800. Repeat, corridor is restricted access only. Confirm your 10 to 20. He did not respond immediately. His eyes were still boring into the back of her head, as though he could read her intentions through her skin. 4th floor, East Wing, he said into the radio, his voice unwavering. Female, African American, no badge, no cooperation. Requesting backup for escort. No cooperation. She noted the phrase, filed it away. It would be useful later. Then she spoke. Voice low. Even. Not a single tremor. I understand, and I am recording every second. His hand paused, just for a beat, as if those words had touched some nerve he had not anticipated. Then he laughed, a short, dismissive sound. Record all you want. It will be useful when you explain to a judge why you were trespassing in a restricted area. At the far end of the corridor, an office door began to open. Slowly, as though whoever was inside was deciding whether or not to step out. The door stopped at a gap of 3 inches, then closed again. No one emerged. Nadine caught it in her peripheral vision, noted it, stored it. Someone was watching. Someone had chosen not to intervene. She would remember. 45 minutes earlier, 6:38 a.m. The underground parking garage of the Richard B. Russell Federal Building sat empty and silent. Only the low hum of ventilation echoed between gray concrete pillars. A gray 2019 Honda Accord turned into a spot marked for judicial personnel. Standard Georgia plates, not a vanity plate, not a diplomatic plate. Nadine Okafor turned off the engine and sat in the darkness for a moment. She looked into the rear-view mirror, checking her reflection. Gray blazer over a white blouse, black tailored trousers, nude flats. No jewelry except for small pearl earrings her mother had left her. First day. 15 years as a federal prosecutor, 273 cases, 192 convictions. And 3 weeks ago, the United States Senate had confirmed her appointment as a federal district judge for the Northern District of Georgia. She arrived early because she wanted to familiarize herself with the space before anyone else showed up. Her official badge was still being processed and would be ready at 9 a.m. In her bag, she carried her appointment letter, email confirmation from the Judicial Council, and 15 years of experience standing before the bench. But none of that was visible on her face. She stepped out of the car, locked it, and walked toward the elevator. Her flat shoes made no sound on the concrete. She preferred it that way, preferred to move without announcing herself. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in, pressed L for lobby. As the doors began to close, a hand shot through the gap. The doors reopened. A man stepped inside. 50s, gray suit, badge hanging from his neck. William Tate, court administrator. He glanced at her, a quick look, head to toe, then turned away. Which floor? Lobby? He nodded, said nothing more. The elevator descended. Silence. Nadine observed him in the reflection on the steel doors. William Tate, court administrator. She had read his file. 23 years in the court system. Former law clerk for a federal judge in Chicago before switching to the administrative track. No complaints in his personnel file, no notable commendations either. An invisible man, the kind who worked within the system without leaving traces. The elevator stopped at the lobby. Doors opened. William Tate stepped out first, not looking back. Nadine followed, maintaining a distance of 5 paces. She watched him turn left toward the staff security entrance. His badge beeped. The gate opened. He disappeared into the interior. She walked toward the visitor security checkpoint. A deliberate choice. She wanted to see the process from an ordinary person's perspective. See how they treated someone without a badge. 2 deputy marshals stood behind the counter. One young, maybe 25, badge reading D. Moreno. One older, 40s or beyond, badge not visible. Moreno watched her approach. No smile, no greeting. Bag on the belt. Step through the scanner. She placed her bag down. Laptop in one compartment, documents in another, water bottle already uncapped to avoid additional inspection. Everything arranged as if she had passed through hundreds of courthouse security checkpoints. Because she had. She stepped through the metal detector. No alarm. Moreno looked at the X-ray screen, then at her. Purpose of your visit? Work. You are a... He paused, as though weighing his options. Lawyer? Clerk? Early morning cleaning crew? No other options existed in his mind. A black woman arriving at a federal courthouse at 6:45 a.m. could only be one of those 3 things. Nadine did not react, did not frown, did not sigh. She had heard questions like this for 20 years. Reacting was a waste of energy. Office work, 4th floor. Moreno's eyebrows rose, just slightly, as if she had said something mildly entertaining. 4th floor is the judge's area. You need an escort. I know my way. It is not about knowing your way. His voice hardened. It is about security protocol. No one goes up to the 4th floor before 8 a.m. without an escort or a badge. Nadine considered her options. She could request identity verification now, could call the Judicial Council number, could create a scene, or she could see what happened when a black woman tried to go up to the 4th floor without a badge. She chose the second option. I will go up myself. If there is a problem, I will come back down. She did not wait for his agreement. She retrieved her bag from the belt and walked toward the staff elevator. Hey, you cannot just... She did not turn around, stepped into the elevator, pressed 4. The doors closed before Moreno could reach her. Inside the elevator, Nadine looked up at the security camera in the corner of the ceiling. She knew she was being recorded. Knew Moreno was probably radioing up to the 4th floor right now. She did not care. She wanted to see. The elevator stopped at the 3rd floor. Doors opened. 2 people stepped in. A middle-aged woman, 50s, short blonde hair, badge reading Margot Delaney, court clerk supervisor. A younger man, 30s, carrying a thick stack of files that obscured his badge. Margot Delaney looked at Nadine, head to toe, slowly, as though taking inventory of merchandise. 4th floor? Yes. Do you have an appointment with someone? No specific appointment. Margot turned to the young man, her voice a stage whisper loud enough for Nadine to hear clearly. Derek, check if there are any public tours scheduled today. Looks like someone got lost. Derek Vance, senior law clerk to Chief Judge Colfax. Nadine had read his file. Harvard Law, top 10%. Clerkship with a circuit judge before coming here. Ambitious. And according to a source she had, currently applying to a white shoe firm in D.C. He glanced at his phone, fingers scrolling quickly. No tours. 4th floor is restricted until 8 a.m. Margot nodded, turning back to Nadine. Her smile did not reach her eyes. Ma'am, you should probably go back down to the 1st floor and check with reception. The 4th floor is not really for... visitors. The word visitors carried a slight emphasis, as if it meant something else entirely. Thank you. I know where I need to go. The elevator opened on the 4th floor. Nadine stepped out. Did not look back. But she heard. Margot's voice, no longer a whisper. Derek, call Brock. Tell him someone is wandering around the corridor. The elevator doors closed. Nadine stood alone in the 4th floor hallway. Lights still in energy-saving mode. The air cold, carrying the scent of freshly mopped stone floors and old paper. She began to walk, slowly, reading each nameplate on the doors. Honanu Raymond Colfax, Chief Judge. Hanana Priya Anand, Magistrate Judge. Honorable Walter Briggs, Senior Judge. And another door. Blank nameplate. No name yet. She stopped in front of that door, touched the handle lightly. Cold, locked. This would be her office. She stepped back, observing the lock. Medico high security, the type used for federal facilities. Proprietary keyway. Cannot be picked with standard tools. She nodded slightly as though checking off a box in her mind. Then she continued walking, searching.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. If you found the content helpful, please remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming episodes. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. We are always here to listen.